Marcus Wellington looked at his watch as his black Tesla pulled up to Riverside Elementary School. He was already 15 minutes late for his next meeting. The phone in his hand buzzed with messages from his assistant about the board meeting that would start in 20 minutes. "Come on, Emma. We need to hurry," he said to his 12-year-old daughter sitting in the back seat. Emma stared out the window at the school building. Other kids were walking toward the entrance with their parents. Some rode old bikes. Others got out of regular cars that had seen better days. She watched a girl her age laugh with her mother as they walked hand in hand toward the school doors. "Emma, did you hear me?" Marcus asked again, his voice sharper this time. "Yes, Dad," Emma said quietly. She picked up her pink designer backpack from the seat beside her. The bag cost more than most families spent on groceries in a month. Though Emma did not know this, Marcus had chosen Riverside Elementary for his daughter because he wanted her to be normal. He often told people at business dinners that he did not want Emma to grow up in some fancy private school where rich kids learned to think they were better than everyone else. He wanted her to understand the real world. But as Emma stepped out of the car, she did not feel normal at all. She felt like everyone was staring at her. The Tesla was the most expensive car in the parking lot. Her shoes were designer sneakers that sparkled in the morning sun. Her backpack had a famous brand name printed across it in gold letters. "Have a good day, sweetheart," Marcus called through the open window. "I'll see you tonight." Emma turned to wave, but the Tesla was already moving. Marcus was on his phone again, talking loudly about stock prices and quarterly reports. Emma watched the car disappear around the corner. She stood alone on the sidewalk for a moment, feeling very small. Inside the school, Emma walked down the hallway toward her classroom. Other students whispered as she passed. She heard words like rich girl and show off, but pretended not to notice. She had learned to keep her head down and walk quickly. Mrs. Rodriguez was writing math problems on the whiteboard when Emma entered the classroom. The teacher was 67 years old and had been teaching at Riverside Elementary for over 20 years. She wore a simple blue dress that she had bought at a discount store. Her gray hair was pulled back in a neat bun. "Good morning, Emma," Mrs. Rodriguez said with a warm smile. "Please take your seat." Emma sat at her desk in the third row. The desk next to her was empty. It had been empty for 3 weeks now, ever since Emma's former desk partner asked the teacher to move to a different spot. Emma never asked why. She was afraid of the answer. The morning lessons began. Emma tried to focus on the math problems, but she could feel eyes on her. Behind her, 2 boys named Jake and Tyler were whispering. "Look at her fancy pen," Jake said quietly. "Probably costs more than my dad makes in a week." "My mom says her dad is one of those rich guys who takes money from poor people," Tyler added. Emma's cheeks turned red. She gripped her pen tighter and tried to solve the math problem on her paper. The numbers seemed to swim before her eyes. When lunchtime came, Emma walked to the cafeteria alone. She had brought her lunch in a small cooler bag that kept her food cold. Inside was a sandwich made by their housekeeper, an apple cut into perfect slices, and a bottle of expensive sparkling water. Emma found an empty table in the corner and sat down. She unpacked her lunch carefully, trying not to attract attention. But it was too late. A group of girls from her class had noticed. "Look what Princess Moneybags brought for lunch," said a girl named Sarah. She was the most popular girl in the 6th grade. "Is that sparkling water? Does regular water not taste good enough for you?" The other girls laughed. Emma felt her face get hot again. She wanted to explain that she did not ask for sparkling water, that the housekeeper just packed whatever was in the refrigerator, but she knew it would not matter. "I bet she has a driver take her to school every day," said another girl named Lisa. "Actually, her dad drives her in a Tesla," Sarah said. "I saw it this morning. My mom says those cars cost more than a house." Emma took a small bite of her sandwich, but it tasted like cardboard. She wanted to go home. She wanted to tell her dad that she was sick and needed to leave school early. But Marcus was probably in his meeting now, making deals that would earn him more millions. The rest of the lunch period passed slowly. Emma sat alone while groups of friends laughed and talked at tables around her. She watched them share their simple lunches and felt jealous. Their sandwiches came in plastic bags. Their drinks were regular juice boxes or water bottles. But they had something Emma did not have. They had friends. When the bell rang, Emma threw away most of her lunch. She had barely eaten anything, but her stomach felt too twisted to hold food. The afternoon classes were harder to get through. During art time, the teacher asked students to work in pairs. Emma waited hopefully, but no one chose her as a partner. Mrs. Rodriguez finally paired her with a quiet boy named David, who seemed as uncomfortable as Emma felt. "Don't worry," David whispered to her as they worked on their project. "They'll get bored of picking on you eventually." Emma looked at him in surprise. It was the first kind thing anyone at school had said to her in weeks. "They pick on you too?" she asked quietly. David nodded. "My clothes come from thrift stores. They call me Goodwill David. I guess we're both different in our own ways." For a moment, Emma felt a little less alone. But then Sarah walked by their table and made a comment about the loser table, and the feeling disappeared. When the final bell rang, Emma packed her expensive backpack slowly. She hoped her dad would be waiting outside, but she knew he would probably be late again. His assistant usually called to say he was stuck in traffic or in another important meeting. Emma walked outside and looked for the black Tesla. The parking lot was full of parents picking up their children. She saw hugs and smiles and heard plans for after-school snacks and homework help, but there was no Tesla. Emma sat on a bench near the school entrance and waited. Other kids ran past her toward their families. She pulled out her phone to call her dad, but it went straight to voicemail. "Hi, Dad," she said after the beep. "I'm waiting for you at school. I hope your meeting went well. I'll just wait here until you come." Emma hung up and put the phone back in her backpack. She sat on the bench for 30 more minutes before the Tesla finally appeared. Marcus looked stressed as he rolled down the window. "Sorry, sweetheart. Traffic was terrible," he said, though Emma could see he was ending a business call as she got in the car. "How was school?" Marcus asked as they drove home to their big house on the hill. Emma looked out the window at the regular houses they passed. She saw families in their yards, kids playing on swing sets, parents helping with bicycles. "It was fine," Emma said quietly. Marcus nodded and immediately took another phone call. Emma listened to him talk about profit margins and investment opportunities. She wondered if he would ever ask her what fine really meant. She wondered if he would care about the whispers and the empty desk beside her, and the lunch she could not eat. But Marcus was busy building his empire, and Emma was learning to build walls around her heart. 3 weeks had passed since Emma started sitting alone at lunch every day. The name-calling had gotten worse. Now the kids did not just whisper behind her back. They said things loud enough for her to hear. "Here comes Princess Moneybags," Jake would announce when Emma walked into the classroom each morning. Other kids would giggle and point at whatever expensive item she was carrying that day. Emma had tried to fix the problem. She asked their housekeeper, Maria, to pack her lunch in a regular brown bag instead of the fancy cooler. She begged her dad to let her walk to school instead of driving her in the Tesla. But Marcus was always in a hurry, and walking would take too long. "Don't be silly, Emma," he had said that morning while checking his emails on his phone. "It's not safe for you to walk alone. Besides, I drive right past your school on my way to the office." Emma did not try to explain that arriving in the Tesla made everything worse. Her dad would not understand. Marcus saw the expensive car as a good thing, a sign of his success. He did not see how it made Emma stick out like a diamond in a pile of rocks. During recess that Tuesday, Emma sat on a bench reading a book while other kids played on the playground. She had given up trying to join their games weeks ago. The last time she asked to play kickball, Sarah had laughed and said, "Sorry, this game is only for normal kids." Emma pretended to read, but she was really watching the other children have fun. She saw Lisa and her friends playing a clapping game they had made up. She watched David, the boy from art class, sitting alone under a tree. At least she was not the only one who ate lunch alone. "Emma Wellington," a voice said behind her. Emma turned to see Tyler and 2 other boys from her class standing there with mean smiles on their faces. "What do you want?" Emma asked quietly. "We were just wondering," Tyler said. "Does your daddy buy you everything you want? Like if you asked for a pony, would he get you one? Or maybe a helicopter," added one of the other boys. "Rich people have helicopters, right?" Emma's cheeks burned. "I don't have a pony or a helicopter," she said. "But you could get them if you wanted," Tyler pressed. "Your dad probably has more money than everyone in this whole school put together." "He does," said the 3rd boy. "My dad works at the bank downtown. He says Emma's dad owns like 10 companies or something crazy like that." Emma stood up from the bench. "I just want to read my book," she said. "What's wrong, Princess?" Tyler asked. "Don't want to talk to us poor kids? Are we not good enough for you?" That's not true, Emma said, her voice shaking. I never said that. You don't have to say it, Tyler shot back. Everyone knows what you think. You probably go home and laugh about how we're all so poor compared to you. Tears started to form in Emma's eyes. She grabbed her book and tried to walk away, but Tyler stepped in front of her. Where are you going? Back to your mansion? Leave me alone, Emma whispered. Just then, Mrs. Rodriguez appeared on the playground. She had been watching from the classroom window and saw the boys surrounding Emma. Tyler, come here, please, Mrs. Rodriguez called out. I need to speak with you. The boys scattered, leaving Emma standing alone with tears rolling down her cheeks. Mrs. Rodriguez walked over to her. Are you all right, dear? The teacher asked gently. Emma wiped her eyes quickly. I'm fine, she said, using the same word she always used when adults asked about her day. Mrs. Rodriguez studied Emma's face. She had been teaching long enough to know when a child was not fine, but she also knew that sometimes kids needed time before they were ready to talk. If you ever want to chat, my classroom door is always open, Mrs. Rodriguez said. Even during lunch and recess, Emma nodded and walked back toward the school building. She did not notice Mrs. Rodriguez watching her with concern. That afternoon in English class, things got worse. The teacher asked students to share their weekend plans. One by one, kids talked about going to the park, having sleepovers, or visiting grandparents. When it was Emma's turn, she said quietly, My dad and I might go out to dinner. Let me guess, Sarah said loudly from across the room. At some fancy restaurant where they charge $50 for a hamburger? Several kids laughed. Emma felt her face turn red again. That's enough, Sarah, the teacher said, but the damage was done. Emma sank lower in her seat and did not speak for the rest of class. After school, Emma waited on the bench for her dad to pick her up. She saw other kids getting hugs from their parents. She watched mothers asking about homework and fathers listening to stories about the school day. Everyone seemed so happy to see each other. When Marcus finally arrived, he was on another phone call. Emma got in the car and listened to him talk about buying another company. She looked out the window and tried not to think about Tyler's words or Sarah's laughter. How was school today, sweetheart? Marcus asked when he finally hung up the phone. Fine, Emma said automatically. Good, good, Marcus replied, already reaching for his phone again. Oh, I almost forgot. I have to fly to Chicago tomorrow for meetings. I'll be gone for 3 days. Maria will take care of you. Emma's heart sank. She had been hoping they could have dinner together that night, just the two of them. Maybe she could finally tell him about the problems at school. Okay, Dad, she said quietly. Don't sound so sad, Marcus said with a laugh. Maria makes better food than I do anyway. And when I get back, maybe we can go shopping. You could use some new clothes for school. Emma almost told him that new clothes would make everything worse, that the expensive outfits were part of the problem. But Marcus was already taking another call. At home that evening, Emma sat in her large bedroom doing homework. The room was bigger than some people's living rooms. She had every toy and gadget a kid could want. But sitting there alone, surrounded by expensive things, Emma felt poorer than anyone she knew. She thought about David sitting under the tree at recess. Maybe tomorrow she would sit with him. Maybe they could be the outcasts together. At least then she would not be completely alone. Emma looked at her homework, but the letters seemed blurry. She was tired of pretending everything was fine. She was tired of being Princess Moneybags. She was tired of having everything except the one thing she wanted most, a friend. Down the hall, she could hear Marcus on another business call, his voice echoing through the big house. Emma closed her eyes and tried to imagine what it would be like to have a dad who asked real questions about her day. A dad who noticed when she was sad. A dad who cared more about her problems than his phone calls. But when she opened her eyes, she was still alone in her golden cage, wishing she could trade all of her dad's money for just one real friend. Emma picked up her pencil and tried to focus on her math homework. Tomorrow would be another day of whispers and name-calling and sitting alone, but maybe, just maybe, she would find the courage to sit with David under his tree. Maybe being lonely together was better than being lonely alone. Outside her window, the city lights twinkled like stars. Somewhere out there, her classmates were probably doing homework too, but they were surrounded by families who cared about more than money. Emma pressed her face against the cool glass and made a wish on the brightest light she could see. She wished for a friend who would like her for who she was, not hate her for what her father had. She wished for someone who would understand that having everything could sometimes feel like having nothing at all. Emma's stomach hurt again as she got ready for school. It was the third morning this week that she felt sick before leaving the house. She stood in front of her bathroom mirror, looking at her pale face and the dark circles under her eyes. "I don't feel good," she told Maria, their housekeeper, when she came downstairs for breakfast. Maria looked at Emma with worried eyes. She had worked for the Wellington family for 5 years and had watched Emma grow from a happy 7-year-old into this sad, quiet 12-year-old. "Where does it hurt, mija?" Maria asked in her gentle voice. Emma pointed to her stomach. "Right here. It feels like there are knots inside." Maria felt Emma's forehead. "You don't have a fever. Maybe you should eat something small. Sometimes when we're nervous, our stomachs hurt." "I'm not nervous," Emma lied. "I'm really sick." But Marcus was already honking the horn outside. He had returned from his business trip to Chicago the night before, but Emma had already been asleep when he got home. This morning he was in an even bigger hurry than usual. "Come on, Emma," Maria said softly. "Your father is waiting." Emma dragged herself to the car, her backpack feeling heavier than ever. Marcus was on a conference call, speaking loudly about some deal that was worth millions of dollars. "Morning, sweetheart," he said quickly when Emma got in the car. Then he went right back to his call. Emma listened to her dad talk about money and stocks and buying companies. She wondered if he ever got tired of always talking about business. She wondered if he ever thought about her when he was in those meetings. At school, Emma walked slowly toward her classroom. Her stomach still hurt, and now her head was starting to pound too. She felt dizzy as she climbed the stairs to the second floor. In English class, Mrs. Rodriguez was reading a story about a girl who moved to a new town and made friends with her neighbors. Emma tried to listen, but the words seemed far away. She kept thinking about how nice it would be to have neighbors who wanted to be friends instead of classmates who wanted to hurt her feelings. During lunch, Emma sat at her usual empty table. She had brought a simple sandwich today, packed in a plain brown bag. She thought maybe if she looked more normal, the other kids would leave her alone. But Sarah and her friends had other plans. "Look, everyone," Sarah announced loudly as she walked past Emma's table. "Princess Moneybags is trying to pretend she's poor now. How cute." "Yeah," said Lisa. "But we all know she's going home to her mansion after school." Emma kept her eyes on her sandwich and tried to ignore them, but Sarah was not done. "Hey, Emma," Sarah said, sitting down across from her uninvited. "My mom wants to know something. Is it true that your dad steals money from poor people to make himself richer?" Emma looked up confused. "What? No, that's not true. My mom says that's what rich people do," Sarah continued. "They take money that should go to workers and keep it for themselves. She says your dad probably fires people from their jobs just to save money." "That's not what my dad does," Emma said, her voice shaking, but she was not really sure what her dad did all day. She knew he owned companies, but she did not know what kind of companies or how he made his money. She had never really thought about it before. "My dad lost his job last year because some rich guy bought the company and fired everyone," Tyler said, appearing at their table with Jake and 2 other boys. "Maybe it was your dad." "It wasn't my dad," Emma whispered, but her voice was so quiet that no one heard her. "She probably doesn't even care," Jake said. "Rich people don't care about anyone but themselves." Emma felt tears starting to form in her eyes. The knot in her stomach was getting tighter and tighter. "I do care," she said louder this time. "And my dad is not a bad person." "Then why doesn't he give some of his money to poor people?" Sarah demanded. "Why does he need billions of dollars when some kids don't even have enough food to eat?" Emma did not know how to answer. She had never thought about why her dad needed so much money. She had never thought about kids who did not have enough food. "See?" Sarah said triumphantly. She can't even answer because she knows it's true. Her whole family is greedy. The words hit Emma like punches. She felt the tears spill over and run down her cheeks. The other kids at nearby tables were starting to stare and whisper. Emma grabbed her backpack and ran out of the cafeteria. She could hear Sarah and her friends laughing behind her. She ran down the hallway, not sure where she was going. She just needed to get away. Emma pushed through the door to the girls' bathroom and locked herself in the last stall. She sat on the floor and cried harder than she had ever cried before. All the weeks of name-calling and loneliness and pretending everything was fine came pouring out of her. She cried because the other kids hated her for something she could not control. She cried because her dad cared more about his phone calls than her problems. She cried because she felt guilty about having so much money when other people had so little. She cried because she was 12 years old and felt completely alone in the world. Emma's whole body shook as she sobbed. She could not catch her breath. Her chest felt tight and her heart was beating so fast it scared her. She had never felt panic like this before. The bathroom door opened and Emma heard footsteps. She tried to be quiet, but she could not stop crying. "Hello?" A gentle voice called out. "Is someone in here? Are you okay?" Emma recognized the voice. It was Mrs. Rodriguez. "I'm fine," Emma managed to say between sobs, but her voice came out as a squeak. Mrs. Rodriguez knocked softly on the stall door. "Honey, you don't sound fine. Can you open the door? I'd like to help." "I can't," Emma cried. "Everyone hates me. They think my family is evil. They think we steal money from poor people." Through the stall door, Mrs. Rodriguez heard the pain in Emma's voice. She had suspected for weeks that this child was struggling, but she had not realized how bad things had gotten. "Emma, dear, can you please open the door?" Mrs. Rodriguez asked gently. "You're having a panic attack and I want to help you breathe." Emma's hands shook as she reached for the lock. She opened the door and saw Mrs. Rodriguez standing there with the kindest eyes she had ever seen. The teacher immediately knelt down and put her arms around Emma. "It's going to be okay," Mrs. Rodriguez whispered as Emma collapsed against her. "Just breathe with me. In and out, in and out." Emma clung to Mrs. Rodriguez like she was drowning and the teacher was a life raft. For the first time in months, someone was holding her while she cried. Someone was telling her it would be okay. Mrs. Rodriguez did not ask questions or try to make Emma talk. She just held her and helped her breathe until the panic started to fade. She stroked Emma's hair the way Emma's mother might have done if she had lived long enough to comfort her daughter through her first heartbreak. When Emma finally stopped shaking, Mrs. Rodriguez helped her stand up. She wet some paper towels with cool water and helped Emma clean her face. "Better?" Mrs. Rodriguez asked softly. Emma nodded, though she still felt empty inside. "I think we should go to my classroom and talk," Mrs. Rodriguez said. "Would that be okay?" Emma nodded again. She was too tired to argue, too broken to pretend anymore that everything was fine. As they walked down the empty hallway together, Emma felt something she had not felt in weeks. She felt safe. For the first time since starting at Riverside Elementary, someone was taking care of her instead of hurting her. Emma did not know it yet, but this moment in the bathroom was about to change everything. Sometimes when we break completely, it's the only way we can finally start to heal. Mrs. Rodriguez led Emma to her empty classroom and closed the door quietly behind them. The room felt peaceful after the chaos of the cafeteria and the bathroom. Sunlight streamed through the windows, making the colorful posters on the walls seem warm and welcoming. "Sit wherever you feel comfortable," Mrs. Rodriguez said gently. Emma chose a desk in the front row, close to where Mrs. Rodriguez sat down in her teacher's chair. For a moment, they just sat in comfortable silence. Emma's breathing was finally back to normal, but her eyes were still red from crying. "You don't have to talk if you're not ready," Mrs. Rodriguez said. "But I want you to know that I'm here to listen, not to judge." Emma looked at her teacher's face. Mrs. Rodriguez had kind brown eyes behind her reading glasses. Her graying hair was pulled back in its usual neat bun, and she wore a simple yellow cardigan that looked soft and comfortable. Everything about her seemed safe. "They hate me," Emma whispered finally. "Everyone at school hates me because my dad has money." Mrs. Rodriguez nodded slowly. "That must feel terrible. Tell me more about what's been happening." And so Emma did. She told Mrs. Rodriguez about the name-calling and the whispers. She told her about sitting alone at lunch every day and having no one to talk to during recess. She told her about how the other kids thought she was spoiled and mean, even though she had never said anything unkind to any of them. "They think my dad is a bad person," Emma said, her voice breaking again. "They say he steals money from poor people, but I don't even know what my dad does at work. He's always too busy to explain it to me." Mrs. Rodriguez listened carefully to every word. She had taught hundreds of children over the years, and she knew real pain when she heard it. "Emma," Mrs. Rodriguez said softly, "can I tell you something about myself?" Emma nodded. "I grew up very poor," Mrs. Rodriguez began. "My family came to this country from Mexico when I was 8 years old. My father worked in a factory and my mother cleaned houses. We lived in a tiny apartment with my grandparents and my two brothers. Emma looked surprised. She had never thought about her teacher's childhood before. I remember being embarrassed about our old clothes and our accents. Mrs. Rodriguez continued. I remember kids at school making fun of the food my mother packed for my lunch. I felt different and alone, just like you do now. But you were poor, Emma said quietly. Everyone likes poor people better than rich people. Mrs. Rodriguez smiled sadly. Oh, honey, people don't automatically like you better because you're poor. Kids can be mean about anything that makes you different. They made fun of me for having holes in my shoes. They made fun of you for having expensive shoes. The problem isn't really about money. Emma frowned, thinking about this. Then what is the problem? Fear, Mrs. Rodriguez said simply. People are afraid of what they don't understand. The kids at this school don't understand what it's like to have wealthy parents, so they make up stories about it. They imagine that rich people must be mean or greedy because that's easier than trying to understand the truth. What is the truth? Emma asked. Mrs. Rodriguez was quiet for a moment, choosing her words carefully. The truth is that having money doesn't make someone good or bad. It's what you do with your life that matters. And from what I can see, you are a kind, thoughtful young lady who is hurting very much right now. Tears started flowing down Emma's cheeks again, but this time they felt different. They felt like relief. I just want friends, Emma whispered. I just want someone to like me for who I am. I like you for who you are, Mrs. Rodriguez said warmly. You are smart and caring and brave. Do you know how brave it was to open that bathroom door when you were so scared? Emma had not thought of herself as brave. She felt like the biggest coward in the world most days. Mrs. Rodriguez reached into her desk drawer and pulled out a box of tissues. She handed it to Emma and then settled back in her chair. Can I tell you more about my story? Mrs. Rodriguez asked. Emma nodded, wiping her eyes. When I was in high school, I decided I wanted to become a teacher, but my family needed me to work and help earn money, so I got a job at a restaurant after school and on weekends. I worked there for 4 years while I finished high school. Mrs. Rodriguez's voice grew thoughtful as she remembered. Then I went to community college at night while working 3 jobs during the day. I cleaned offices in the morning, worked at the restaurant in the afternoon, and babysat children in the evening. I was so tired all the time that I would fall asleep in class. That sounds really hard, Emma said. It was hard, Mrs. Rodriguez agreed. But you know what the hardest part was? I was so busy working that I barely saw my own children when they were growing up. My oldest son was in the school play, but I had to miss it because I was working. My daughter's first steps happened while I was in class. I thought I was being a good mother by working so hard to provide for them, but I missed so much of their childhood. Emma felt confused. But you had to work to take care of them, right? Yes, I did, Mrs. Rodriguez said. But I learned something important too late. My children didn't need me to buy them things as much as they needed me to be present with them. They needed my time and attention more than they needed money. Mrs. Rodriguez looked directly at Emma. Your father works very hard, just like I did, but sometimes when we focus too much on providing for our children, we forget to connect with them. It doesn't mean your father doesn't love you. It just means he might not realize what you really need from him. Emma thought about this. She had never considered that her dad might not know what she needed. She had always assumed he was too busy to care. Do you think my dad loves me? Emma asked in a small voice. Oh, sweetheart, Mrs. Rodriguez said, her voice full of warmth. I can see how much your father loves you just by looking at the choices he's made. He could have sent you to an expensive private school where you would fit in with other wealthy children. But he brought you here because he wants you to understand the real world. That's the decision of a father who cares about raising a good person. Emma had never thought about her dad's choice that way before. The problem is, Mrs. Rodriguez continued, he probably doesn't realize how hard it's been for you to fit in here. Adults sometimes forget how difficult it can be to be different, even in good ways. They sat together in comfortable silence for a few minutes. Emma felt lighter than she had in weeks. Someone finally understood how lonely and confused she had been feeling. Mrs. Rodriguez? Emma asked quietly. Yes, dear. Do you think the other kids will ever stop hating me? Mrs. Rodriguez considered this carefully. I think some of them might if they get to know the real you. But it might take time. People have to be ready to change their minds, and you can't force that to happen. What should I do until then? Be yourself, Mrs. Rodriguez said simply. Be kind even when others aren't kind to you. Be honest about who you are. And remember that having one real friend who understands you is worth more than having 100 friends who only like you for the wrong reasons. Emma smiled for the first time in weeks. Are you my friend, Mrs. Rodriguez? Mrs. Rodriguez smiled back. I would be honored to be your friend, Emma. And friends take care of each other. So if you ever need someone to talk to, you know where to find me. The bell rang, signaling the end of lunch period. Emma felt nervous about facing the other students again, but she also felt stronger than she had that morning. Thank you, Emma said as she gathered her backpack. Thank you for trusting me with your story, Mrs. Rodriguez replied. That took courage. As Emma walked back toward her next class, she carried something new with her. For the first time since starting at Riverside Elementary, she had an adult who truly understood her pain. She had someone who believed she was a good person worth caring about. It was not the same as having friends her own age, but it was a beginning. And sometimes Emma was learning. The most important friendships come from the most unexpected places. Marcus Wellington looked at his watch as he walked quickly across the school parking lot. For once in his life, he was early. His afternoon meeting had been canceled at the last minute, and instead of scheduling another appointment, he had decided to surprise Emma by picking her up early from school. He felt guilty about how busy he had been lately. The Chicago trip had taken longer than expected, and he realized he had barely spoken to Emma all week except for their hurried car rides to school. Maybe they could stop for ice cream on the way home. Maybe they could actually have a conversation without his phone ringing. Marcus walked toward the main entrance of Riverside Elementary, planning to sign Emma out early and take her somewhere special. But as he passed the windows of the ground floor classrooms, something caught his eye. Through the window of Mrs. Rodriguez's classroom, Marcus saw his daughter. But Emma was not sitting at a desk doing schoolwork. She was crying. Not just tears, but the kind of deep, body-shaking sobs that come from a place of real pain. Marcus stopped walking and stared through the window. An older woman with gray hair was holding Emma, stroking her hair gently while Emma clung to her like she was drowning. The woman was speaking softly to Emma, and Marcus could see his daughter's shoulders slowly stop shaking as the woman comforted her. Marcus had never seen Emma cry like this. Even when she was a small child, Emma had always been calm and quiet. He thought this meant she was well-behaved and happy. But watching her now, Marcus realized he had been wrong about everything. The woman holding his daughter had to be Mrs. Rodriguez, Emma's teacher. Marcus watched as she helped Emma sit up and handed her tissues. He watched as she knelt down to Emma's level and spoke to her with the kind of gentle patience that Marcus realized he had never shown his own child. Marcus felt something cold and sharp twist in his chest. When was the last time he had hugged Emma the way this teacher was hugging her now? When was the last time he had sat with Emma and really listened to her problems? He tried to remember the last time Emma had cried in front of him, and he was shocked to realize that he could not remember any time at all. Either Emma never cried or she was very good at hiding it from him. The truth hit Marcus like a punch to the stomach. Emma was hiding her pain from him. His own daughter did not feel safe enough to cry in front of her father. Instead, she was pouring her heart out to a teacher who had probably known her for only a few months. Marcus watched as Mrs. Rodriguez wiped Emma's tears and spoke to her with such kindness that it made his chest ache. The teacher's face was full of genuine care and concern. She was treating Emma like she was precious, like her feelings mattered more than anything else in the world. When was the last time Marcus had looked at Emma that way? When was the last time he had put down his phone and given Emma his complete attention? Marcus realized he was standing there with his mouth open, staring through the window like a stranger watching someone else's life. But this was his life. This was his daughter. And somehow he had missed the fact that she was falling apart. Emma said something to Mrs. Rodriguez, and the teacher smiled warmly in response. Marcus saw Emma's face brighten just a little bit, the way it used to when she was small and he would read her bedtime stories. But those days felt like a lifetime ago now. Marcus thought about all the bedtime stories he had stopped reading because of work calls. He thought about all the dinners they had eaten in silence while he checked emails on his phone. He thought about all the times Emma had said fine when he asked about her day, and he had accepted that answer without asking any follow-up questions. He had been so proud of himself for choosing a regular public school for Emma instead of some exclusive private academy. He had told himself he was teaching her important values about the real world. But watching her cry in a teacher's arms, Marcus realized he had failed to protect her from anything. The scene in the classroom was changing. Mrs. Rodriguez was helping Emma stand up and collect herself. Emma was nodding at something the teacher was saying, and Marcus could see that his daughter looked calmer now, more at peace than he had seen her in weeks. But Marcus also noticed something else. Emma looked at Mrs. Rodriguez with complete trust and gratitude. She looked at the teacher the way a child should look at a parent who has just solved their biggest problem. Marcus felt jealous of a 67-year-old school teacher. He felt jealous that this woman had been able to comfort his daughter when he had not even known his daughter needed comforting. How long had Emma been struggling? How many days had she come home from school sad and lonely while he sat in his home office making phone calls? How many nights had she gone to bed feeling upset while he worked late in his study? Marcus thought about Emma's recent behavior. She had been quieter than usual, but he had assumed she was just going through a normal phase that 12-year-old girls go through. She had seemed tired in the mornings, but he had thought it was because she stayed up too late reading. Now he realized that all of those signs had been Emma's way of asking for help, and he had been too busy or too distracted to notice. The bell rang somewhere inside the school building, and Marcus saw students beginning to move through the hallways. Soon Emma would be coming outside, and he would have to pretend that he had not just witnessed the most important moment of her recent life. Marcus backed away from the window and walked quickly to his car. He needed a few minutes to think before Emma saw him. He needed to figure out what to say to her. As he sat in the Tesla waiting, Marcus replayed the scene in his mind. He thought about the way Mrs. Rodriguez had held Emma, the way she had listened, the way she had treated Emma's problems as if they were the most important thing in the world. That was how a parent was supposed to act. That was how Marcus should have been acting all along. Marcus pulled out his phone to call his assistant and cancel the rest of his afternoon meetings. Then he stopped. For the first time in months, maybe years, Marcus was going to put his phone away and focus completely on his daughter. He was going to ask Emma real questions about her day. He was going to listen to her answers without interrupting or checking his email. He was going to find out why his daughter had been crying in a classroom instead of at home, where she should have felt safe. Marcus realized that he had been so busy building an empire to leave to Emma that he had forgotten to build a relationship with her. He had been so focused on providing for her future that he had missed her entire present. The school doors opened and students began pouring out. Marcus searched the crowd for Emma's face, and when he saw her, his heart almost broke. She looked small and tired, walking alone while groups of other children laughed and talked with their friends. Marcus got out of the car and walked toward her. Emma looked surprised to see him. "Dad, you're early," she said. "I finished my meetings early and thought we could spend some time together," Marcus said. "Maybe get some ice cream and talk?" Emma's eyes widened slightly. Marcus could not remember the last time he had suggested doing something together just for fun. "Really?" Emma asked. "Really," Marcus said. "In fact, I was thinking we could make it a long afternoon. Just the two of us." As they walked to the car together, Marcus made a silent promise to himself. He was going to learn everything about his daughter's life that he had missed. He was going to find out why she had been crying, and he was going to fix whatever was wrong. Most importantly, he was going to make sure that the next time Emma needed comfort, she would come to him instead of having to find it from a stranger. Marcus had built one of the most successful companies in the country, but he was about to learn that his biggest challenge would be rebuilding the relationship with the person who mattered most. Marcus could not sleep that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the image of Emma sobbing in Mrs. Rodriguez's arms. He replayed their ice cream conversation over and over in his mind, remembering how Emma had carefully avoided talking about anything important. When he had asked her about school, she had given him the usual fine answer. When he had asked about her friends, she had quickly changed the subject to ask about his business trip. Marcus realized that Emma had become an expert at redirecting conversations away from her own life. The next morning, Marcus made a decision that shocked everyone, including himself. He canceled all his meetings and told his assistant he would not be available for the rest of the day. "Sir, you have the board meeting at 10, his assistant reminded him over the phone. "Reschedule it," Marcus said firmly. "This is more important." Marcus had never said those words before in his entire career. He drove Emma to school in silence, watching her face in the rearview mirror. She looked nervous and tired, the same way she had looked every morning for weeks. How had he not noticed? "Have a good day, sweetheart," Marcus said as Emma got out of the car. "Thanks, Dad," Emma replied quietly. But instead of driving away like he always did, Marcus parked the car and sat there. He was going to wait. He was going to watch. He was going to see what Emma's school day was really like. Through the school windows, Marcus could see children in the hallways. He watched Emma walk to her classroom, and he noticed that she walked alone. Other kids moved in groups, laughing and talking, but Emma kept her head down and stayed by herself. Marcus felt angry, but he was not sure who he was angry at. The other children for ignoring Emma? The school for not helping her make friends? Himself for not noticing sooner? At lunchtime, Marcus walked into the school building. He told the office staff that he wanted to observe Emma's lunch period to see how she was adjusting to the school. They gave him a visitor's badge and directed him to the cafeteria. What Marcus saw there made his blood boil. Emma sat alone at a table, in the corner, while groups of children laughed and talked at tables around her. She was eating a sandwich very slowly, as if she was trying to make the meal last as long as possible to avoid having nothing to do. Then Marcus watched as a group of girls approached Emma's table. He could not hear what they were saying from across the cafeteria, but he could see Emma's face turn red and her shoulders hunch forward defensively. One of the girls pointed at Emma's lunch bag and said something that made the other girls laugh. Emma looked down at her food and did not respond. Marcus started walking toward the table, but before he could get there, the girls walked away, still giggling. Marcus sat down across from Emma. She looked up at him in complete shock. "Dad, what are you doing here?" "I wanted to have lunch with you," Marcus said, though his jaw was tight with anger. "Who were those girls who were just here?" "Nobody," Emma said quickly. "Just some kids from my class. What were they saying to you?" "Nothing important," Emma replied, but Marcus could see tears forming in her eyes. "Emma, tell me the truth. What did those girls say to you?" Emma looked around the cafeteria nervously. Other children were staring at them now, whispering about why Emma's father was at school. "Can we talk about this later?" Emma whispered. "Everyone is looking at us." Marcus wanted to demand answers right then and there, but he could see that Emma was embarrassed. So he ate lunch with his daughter in silence, watching as other children continued to stare and point. After lunch, Marcus went to the main office and asked to speak with Emma's teacher. Mrs. Rodriguez was in her classroom grading papers when Marcus knocked on her door. "Mr. Wellington," Mrs. Rodriguez said, looking surprised. "Is everything all right? Is Emma sick?" "I need to talk to you about my daughter," Marcus said, walking into the classroom and closing the door behind him. Mrs. Rodriguez gestured for him to sit down, but Marcus was too agitated to sit. "I saw Emma crying in here yesterday," Marcus said bluntly. "I was walking past the window and I saw you comforting her. I want to know what's going on." Mrs. Rodriguez was quiet for a moment, choosing her words carefully. She knew this conversation could go very badly if she was not careful. "Mr. Wellington," she said gently, "Emma has been having some social difficulties at school." "What kind of social difficulties?" Marcus demanded. "Some of the other children have been unkind to her. They make comments about her family's wealth and they've excluded her from group activities." Marcus felt his anger rising. "Are you telling me that my daughter is being bullied and nobody told me?" "Emma asked me not to call you," Mrs. Rodriguez said calmly. "She was worried that you would make things worse if you got involved." "Make things worse?" Marcus's voice was getting louder. "How could I make things worse? I could donate money to this school. I could get those kids expelled. I could—" "Mr. Wellington," Mrs. Rodriguez interrupted firmly. "Please sit down." Something in her tone made Marcus stop talking. He sat down in one of the small student chairs, feeling foolish but also desperate for answers. "Your daughter doesn't need you to throw money at this problem," Mrs. Rodriguez said quietly. "She doesn't need you to use your power to punish other children. What she needs is much simpler than that and much harder." "What does she need?" Marcus asked. "She needs you to be present in her life. She needs you to listen to her. She needs to know that her feelings matter more to you than your business meetings." Marcus felt like he had been slapped. "I work hard to provide for Emma. Everything I do is for her." "I believe that," Mrs. Rodriguez said. "But Emma doesn't need more things. She needs more of you." "That's easy for you to say," Marcus shot back. "You don't have the responsibility of running multiple companies and employing thousands of people. Mrs. Rodriguez looked at Marcus with the same patient expression she used with difficult students. Mr. Wellington, I raised 4 children while working 3 jobs and going to school at night. I know what it's like to feel torn between providing for your family and being present for them, but I learned something the hard way. What's that? I was so busy trying to give my children everything that I forgot to give them myself. My oldest son is 35 now and he barely calls me. My daughter lives across the country and visits once a year. I thought I was being a good mother by working so hard, but I missed their childhood. I missed the chance to really know them. Marcus felt uncomfortable. This conversation was not going the way he had expected. Emma talks about you sometimes, Mrs. Rodriguez continued. Do you know what she says? What does she say? She says you're very important and very busy. She says you work hard to take care of her. But she never talks about things you do together. She never mentions conversations you've had or fun times you've shared. Marcus tried to think of recent fun times he had shared with Emma, and he came up empty. Emma is a wonderful child, Mrs. Rodriguez said gently. She's smart and kind and thoughtful, but she's also lonely and scared. She thinks the other children hate her because of your money, but that's not really the problem. Then what is the problem? The problem is that Emma doesn't know who she is outside of being your daughter. She doesn't have confidence in herself as a person, because she's never had the chance to develop her own identity. She's been so focused on being the daughter of a successful businessman that she's forgotten how to just be a kid. Marcus felt defensive again. I've never pressured Emma to be anything other than herself. Haven't you? Mrs. Rodriguez asked quietly. When Emma comes home from school, do you ask her about her day or do you tell her about yours? When you eat dinner together, do you talk about her interests or do you take phone calls? When she has a problem, does she come to you for help or does she handle it alone? Each question hit Marcus like a physical blow. He knew the answers and they were not good. Emma loves you very much, Mrs. Rodriguez said, but she's learned that your time and attention are limited, so she tries not to bother you with her problems. She's learned to be the perfect, quiet daughter who never causes trouble. But that's good, isn't it? Marcus asked weakly. No, Mr. Wellington, it's not good. Children should feel safe enough to bring their problems to their parents. They should feel like their parents care more about their happiness than anything else in the world. Marcus sat in the small chair, feeling smaller than he had ever felt in his life. This teacher was right and he knew it. What do I do? He asked quietly. Start by listening, Mrs. Rodriguez said. Really listening. Not while you're checking your phone or thinking about work. Listen to Emma like she's the most important person in your life. Because she is. Marcus looked around the colorful classroom, thinking about how comfortable Emma had looked in Mrs. Rodriguez's arms. She trusts you, he said to the teacher. Yes, she does. She trusts you more than she trusts me. Mrs. Rodriguez was quiet for a moment. Emma wants to trust you, Mr. Wellington. She's just waiting for you to show her that it's safe. Marcus sat in his car outside Riverside Elementary for 20 minutes after his conversation with Mrs. Rodriguez. His hands gripped the steering wheel as her words echoed in his mind. Emma was waiting for him to show her it was safe to trust him. For the first time in years, Marcus did not know what to do. He could solve billion-dollar business problems, but he had no idea how to solve the problem of being a better father. He thought about his own childhood. His father had been a successful businessman too, always working, always traveling, always too busy for family dinners or bedtime stories. Marcus had sworn he would be different, but somehow he had become exactly the same person. Marcus remembered being 8 years old, waiting by the window for his father to come home from another business trip. He remembered the expensive gifts his father would bring back, and how those gifts never made up for the fact that his father had missed his school play or his baseball game. Now Marcus was doing the same thing to Emma. He was giving her everything except what she actually needed. That evening, Marcus did something he had never done before. He turned off his phone completely and put it in a drawer in his study. Then he walked to the kitchen where Emma was doing homework at the counter while Maria prepared dinner. Hey, sweetheart, Marcus said, sitting down across from Emma. How was the rest of your day? Emma looked up surprised. Marcus was not on the phone, not checking emails, not rushing to get ready for another meeting. He was just sitting there looking at her. It was okay, Emma said cautiously. Just okay? Tell me more about it. Emma studied her father's face, trying to figure out if this was a trick. Was he really interested, or was he just being polite before rushing off to work? Well, Emma said slowly. "We had a math test today." "How did it go?" "I think I did well. Math is my favorite subject." Marcus realized he did not know what Emma's favorite subject was. In fact, he did not know much about Emma's interests at all. "What is it about math that you like?" Marcus asked. Emma's eyes lit up a little. "I like that there's always a right answer, and I like solving problems. When you figure out a hard equation, it feels really good." Marcus smiled. "That sounds a lot like what I do at work, actually. I spend a lot of time solving problems, too." "Really?" Emma asked. "What kind of problems?" For the next hour, Marcus and Emma talked about their days. Really talked. Marcus told Emma about the challenges of running a business, but he explained it in simple terms that she could understand. Emma told Marcus about her classes and her teachers, and even mentioned some of the kids who had been mean to her. When Emma mentioned the bullying, Marcus felt his anger rising again. But instead of exploding or demanding names and threatening lawsuits, he forced himself to listen. "That must make you feel really sad," Marcus said quietly. Emma looked shocked. She had expected her father to get angry, or to try to fix everything immediately. She had not expected him to simply acknowledge her feelings. "It does make me sad," Emma admitted. "Sometimes I feel like there's something wrong with me." Marcus's heart broke a little. "Emma, there's nothing wrong with you. You're perfect exactly as you are. But if I was perfect, kids would like me, right?" Marcus thought about this carefully before answering. "Sometimes people are mean to others because they're jealous or scared or confused about things they don't understand. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you." They talked through dinner, and for the first time in months, Marcus did not take a single phone call. He ignored the buzzing from his phone in the other room. Emma was more important. After dinner, Marcus made another unprecedented decision. Instead of going to his study to work, he suggested they watch a movie together. "What kind of movies do you like?" Marcus asked as they sat on the couch together. Emma shrugged. "I don't know. I usually just read in my room after dinner." Marcus realized that he had never watched a movie with Emma. He did not know what kind of books she liked to read either. "How about we find something we can both enjoy?" Marcus suggested. They settled on an adventure movie about a girl who goes on a quest to save her village. As they watched, Marcus noticed that Emma relaxed against him on the couch. When was the last time they had just sat together like this? During the movie, Emma made comments about the characters and the plot. Marcus was amazed by how thoughtful and funny his daughter was. She had opinions and ideas that he had never heard before because he had never taken the time to listen. "That was a good movie," Emma said when it ended. "I liked it too," Marcus replied. "The girl in the movie reminded me of you." "Really? How?" "She was brave and smart, and she didn't give up even when things got difficult." Emma smiled, and Marcus realized it was the first real smile he had seen from her in weeks. That night, after Emma went to bed, Marcus sat in his study with his phone still turned off. He thought about all the years he had missed, all the conversations they had never had, all the moments he had prioritized work over his daughter. Marcus made a list of things he wanted to change. He would start having dinner with Emma every night, no phones allowed. He would ask her real questions about her life and listen to the answers. He would attend school events and meet her teachers properly. He would find out what Emma was interested in and support those interests. Most importantly, Marcus would make sure Emma knew that she was the most important thing in his life. The next morning, Marcus did something that shocked his entire company. He announced that he would be working from home 3 days a week and that he would not take meetings or phone calls between 6 and 8 p.m. every day. That time was reserved for Emma. His business partners thought he had lost his mind. His stock price dropped slightly when the news got out. But for the first time in his adult life, Marcus did not care about any of that. When Marcus picked Emma up from school that afternoon, he had a surprise for her. "How would you feel about getting ice cream and then going to the bookstore?" Marcus asked. "I want to see what kinds of books you like to read." Emma's face lit up with genuine excitement. "Really? You want to go to the bookstore with me?" "I want to learn about all the things you're interested in," Marcus said. "I realize I don't know nearly enough about who you are as a person, and I'd like to change that." As they drove to the bookstore, Emma talked more than she had in months. She told Marcus about her favorite authors and the stories she liked to write in her journal. She told him about a science project she was working on and a poem she had written for English class. Marcus listened to every word. amazed by the creative, intelligent young woman his daughter was becoming. How had he missed so much of who she was? At the bookstore, Marcus watched Emma come alive as she showed him different books and explained why she liked certain authors. He bought her 3 new books and promised they would read one of them together. "Dad," Emma said as they walked back to the car. "Yes, sweetheart. Thank you for spending time with me today. It was really fun." Marcus felt tears starting to form in his eyes. "Thank you for sharing your interests with me. I had fun too." That night, as Marcus tucked Emma into bed for the first time in years, she looked up at him with trusting eyes. "Dad, can I tell you something?" "You can tell me anything, Emma." "School has been really hard lately. Some kids have been saying mean things about our family." Marcus felt his protective instincts flare up, but he forced himself to remain calm. "Tell me about it," and Emma did. She told him everything. About the name-calling and the loneliness and the fear that everyone hated her because of his money. She told him about feeling guilty for having so much when other people had so little. She told him about crying in the bathroom and how Mrs. Rodriguez had helped her feel better. Marcus listened to it all without interrupting or getting angry. When Emma finished talking, he was quiet for a moment. "I'm sorry," Marcus said finally. "For what?" "For not being the kind of father you felt safe talking to about these problems. For being so busy that you had to handle all of this alone." Emma reached out and hugged him tightly. "I love you, Dad." "I love you too, Emma. More than all the money and businesses and deals in the world." And for the first time, Emma believed him. 6 months later, Marcus Wellington stood in the gymnasium of Riverside Elementary. Wearing jeans and a simple sweater instead of his usual expensive suit, he was helping to set up tables for the school's spring fundraising dinner, working alongside other parents who had no idea he was worth billions of dollars. "Marcus, can you help me move this table?" called out Janet, the mother of one of Emma's classmates. "Sure thing," Marcus replied, grabbing one end of the folding table. A year ago, Marcus would never have been at a school fundraiser. He would have written a large check and considered his parental duty fulfilled. But now he understood that showing up mattered more than showing off. The changes had not happened overnight. In the weeks following his conversation with Mrs. Rodriguez, Marcus had to learn how to be a different kind of father. Some days were harder than others. The first challenge had been Emma's social situation at school. Marcus's initial instinct was to use his wealth and influence to solve the problem quickly. He wanted to donate new playground equipment, so the kids would like Emma. He wanted to throw an expensive party and invite her whole class, but Mrs. Rodriguez had helped him understand that these gestures would only make things worse. Emma's classmates would see right through attempts to buy their friendship. Instead, Marcus had started small. He began volunteering to help with school events, not as a wealthy benefactor, but as just another parent. He coached the math team that Emma had joined. He helped serve lunch in the cafeteria once a week. Slowly, other parents and students began to see Marcus as a regular person instead of some unreachable rich man. When Emma's classmates saw her father washing dishes in the school kitchen or setting up chairs for the book fair, they started to realize that the Wellington family was not that different from everyone else. The biggest change, though, was in Emma herself. Having her father's attention and support had given her confidence she had never had before. She had joined the school newspaper and started a creative writing club. She had made friends with David, the quiet boy from art class, and 2 other kids who shared her love of books. Emma was not the most popular girl in school, but she was no longer the loneliest. She had found her place among the kids who valued creativity and kindness over expensive clothes and cool phones. "Dad, there you are," Emma said, walking into the gymnasium with her friend Sarah. But this was a different Sarah than the girl who had bullied Emma months earlier. The transformation in Sarah had been one of the most surprising developments of the year. It had started when Emma volunteered to help Sarah with a math assignment. Sarah had been struggling with algebra and was too embarrassed to ask the teacher for help. Emma had stayed after school to tutor Sarah, patiently explaining the concepts until Sarah understood them. When Sarah realized that Emma was not the spoiled, mean girl she had imagined, she felt terrible about how she had treated her. "I'm sorry I was so awful to you," Sarah had told Emma one day after a tutoring session. "I thought you were stuck up, but you're actually really nice." "I was never stuck up," Emma had replied. "I was just scared." That conversation had led to a real friendship. Sarah had even stood up to other kids who still made comments about Emma's family wealth. Now Sarah was one of Emma's closest friends, and her mother Janet had become one of Marcus's friends too. "The decorations look great," Emma told Marcus as she surveyed the gymnasium. "Mrs. Rodriguez is going to love this." Tonight's fundraising dinner was special because it was also Mrs. Rodriguez's retirement party. After 40 years of teaching, she was finally stepping down. The entire school community had come together to celebrate her years of service. Marcus owed more to Mrs. Rodriguez than he could ever express. The teacher had not only helped Emma through her darkest time at school, but she had also helped Marcus become the father he should have been all along. Over the past months, Marcus had gotten to know Mrs. Rodriguez well. He had learned about her 4 children and how she regretted missing so much of their childhoods while working multiple jobs. He had learned about her late husband, who had died just as they were planning to travel together in retirement. Marcus had wanted to do something special for Mrs. Rodriguez, but he knew she would not accept expensive gifts. Instead, he had worked with other parents to create a scholarship fund in her name. The fund would help students from low-income families attend college, something Mrs. Rodriguez had always dreamed of supporting. "Mr. Wellington," a voice said behind him. Marcus turned to see Mrs. Rodriguez walking into the gymnasium, wearing a beautiful blue dress that Emma had helped her pick out. "Mrs. Rodriguez," Marcus said warmly. "You look wonderful." "Thank you," she replied with a smile. "I can't believe you all did this for me." Marcus looked around the gymnasium, which had been transformed with simple decorations made by students and parents working together. It was not fancy or expensive, but it was filled with love. "You've touched so many lives," Marcus said. "This is just a small way to say thank you." Mrs. Rodriguez's eyes filled with tears. "You know, when I started teaching 40 years ago, I thought my job was to teach children about math and reading and science. But I learned that the most important thing I could teach them was that they matter, that their feelings are important, that they deserve to be heard." "You taught me that too," Marcus said quietly. "And you taught me how to be a better father." "You did the hard work yourself," Mrs. Rodriguez replied. "I just pointed you in the right direction." As the evening progressed, Marcus watched Emma laughing with her friends and helping to serve dinner to the guests. She had grown so much in the past 6 months. She was still quiet and thoughtful, but now she was also confident and engaged with the world around her. During the speeches honoring Mrs. Rodriguez, Emma stood up to read a poem she had written for her teacher. The poem was about how one person's kindness could change everything, how a hug at the right moment could save someone who was drowning. When Emma finished reading, there was not a dry eye in the room. Mrs. Rodriguez was crying, and so was Marcus. After the dinner, as families were cleaning up and saying goodbye, Mrs. Rodriguez pulled Marcus aside. "I want you to know how proud I am of the changes you've made," she said. "Emma is a different child than she was 6 months ago." "She's the same wonderful child she always was," Marcus replied. "I just finally learned how to see her. That's the hardest part of parenting," Mrs. Rodriguez said. "Learning to really see our children for who they are, not who we think they should be." Marcus nodded. "I spent so many years trying to provide for Emma's future that I forgot about her present. I thought success meant making sure she would never want for anything. But what she really needed was a father who was present in her life. The best gift you can give a child is your time and attention," Mrs. Rodriguez agreed. "Everything else is just extra." As Marcus and Emma drove home that night, Emma was quiet in the back seat. Marcus could see her in the rearview mirror, looking thoughtful. "What are you thinking about?" Marcus asked. "I'm going to miss Mrs. Rodriguez," Emma said. "She saved me when I thought nobody cared about me." Marcus felt a pang of guilt. "I'm sorry you ever felt that way, sweetheart. I've always cared about you, even when I didn't show it very well." "I know that now," Emma said, "but back then I felt so alone. Mrs. Rodriguez helped me understand that being different doesn't make you bad or wrong. It just makes you special." "You are special," Marcus said. "You're kind and smart and creative and brave." "I'm sorry it took me so long to tell you that." Emma smiled. "You tell me every day now," and Marcus did. Every morning when he drove Emma to school, he told her he was proud of her. Every evening when they did homework together, he reminded her how smart she was. Every night when he tucked her into bed, he told her how much he loved her. Marcus had learned that children need to hear these things regularly, not just on special occasions. They need to know they are valued and loved, not for what they achieve, but for who they are. A year ago, Marcus had thought he was giving Emma everything by providing her with a wealthy lifestyle. Now he understood that the most valuable things in life could not be bought. Love, attention, presence, understanding. These were the gifts that mattered most. As they pulled into their driveway, Emma said, "Dad, thank you for becoming the kind of father I could talk to about anything." Marcus turned off the car and looked at his daughter. "Thank you for giving me the chance to try again." Emma unbuckled her seatbelt and hugged him from the back seat. "I love you, Dad." "I love you too, Emma. More than all the money in the world, and this time, they both knew it was true. The house they walked into was the same mansion they had always lived in, but it felt completely different now. It was no longer just a place where Marcus worked and Emma hid in her room. It had become a real home where a father and daughter shared meals, conversations, and quiet moments together. Marcus had made other changes too. He had traded his flashy Tesla for a simple sedan that did not attract attention at school. He had started dressing more casually for everyday activities. Most importantly, he had changed his work schedule so that Emma always came first. His business partners had worried that these changes would hurt his companies, but the opposite had happened.